Hello everyone, I'm Yvonne, a children's librarian here at the Manchester City Library, and welcome to our winter STEAM-powered stories. These are story times that are aimed at grades 3 to 6 and have a science, technology, engineering, art, or math component. For copyright reasons, our stories are only going to be read in person at the library, so please visit our website to register if you would like to join us. In-person attendance is also going to guarantee that you get a kit to create our craft with, but I also thought that we could continue posting some of our crafts and activities here so we can share it with as many people as possible. So let's get into this week's STEAM-powered story. Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's STEAM-powered stories. I hope you're excited because today we are going to be talking about fluorescence, which I think is really cool. The book that kind of inspired this week's STEAM-powered stories is the Dayglow Brothers, The True Story of Bob and Joe Switzer's Bright Ideas and Brand New Colors. And this is by Chris Barton and illustrated by Tony Perisani. Remember that if you guys want to hear this story or other stories for STEAM-powered story, then come to our in-person STEAM-powered story, which we have every other week just before our videos come out, and sign up at the Manchester City Library website if you would like to listen to stories and do crafts and activities in person. That being said, let's get into our first activity where we're going to learn about and observe the basics of fluorescence. All right, so our first activity is called Wildus Fluorescence. And what you need for this activity, the main thing and the biggest thing is a black light. There's a lot of different ways to get a black light. There are some light bulbs that are sold in stores that you kind of just screw into like a regular lamp that will emit black light. I obviously have a little flashlight with LEDs in it that is a black light. If you don't have a black light at home and can't get one, that's totally fine. It's kind of a strange thing, but that's why we are going to look at some things here together so that you can see the effects of a black light and fluorescence here with us. I've also made a little black light viewing box. So what I did is I took a box and I covered the inside with black paper just to make it more dramatic. I also put a little hole in the top of my box that will fit my black light so that we can have a really cool viewing center in here. I also gathered some things to test in our blacklight box with our blacklight to see if they fluoresce. Now, before we get into the really fun stuff of putting things under the blacklight, you might be wondering what actually is fluorescence. And so what happens is when UV light, which is what black lights give off, so it's a narrow part of the color spectrum. So you know how regular light like sunlight and most of the light that we see with our eyes that are emitted by our regular lamps, we can break those up with a prism into the color spectrum, so a rainbow. There is some light that we can't see that are on the ends of the rainbow, and some of that is UV light, and that is what is filtered out by a black light. So a black light stops most of the normal light that we see and only lets out these specific UV light so that we can use it to see things, do things, cool things like glow, which is what fluorescence is. So fluorescence is caused usually by substances known as phosphors, and those phosphors are what glows. And the glow is created when the UV light hits the phosphorus materials and it gets the electrons, which are one of the very smallest bits of an atom, but it's also what causes electricity. And it gets them very excited with this extra energy. And these electrons go further out than they normally would. When the electron falls back into its normal place, some of that energy is lost as heat. And because it now has less energy, it actually goes from being a UV light, which you cannot see, and falls into the normal light range. And so to us, it looks like there is extra light or extra color that is coming from these phosphorescents that give us the fluorescence or the glow that we can now see. Okay, so that was a lot of information, but it is really cool. And you can now see this really cool thing in practice. Okay, so let's see what I have for us to look at. So first, we're going to go ahead and test our vegetable oil. It's just a regular vegetable oil that I had in my kitchen. And we're going to put it in our black box, and we're going to turn on the light. Center that a little bit more. And you guys can see that it does fluoresce, right? So in the normal light, it's just kind of this normal kind of yellowish, not very interesting, not very appetizing. But when we put it in here, all of a sudden, it takes on like this really cool, let's put it a little bit out of the light, this really cool glowing green, right? So I think we can say that vegetable oil does fluoresce. All right, I've got this bar of Irish Spring soap, and I will say that I cheated a little bit to see what would fluoresce. And this one's a little bit harder to tell for you guys on the screen, but I did look it up, and this bar does actually fluoresce, and you can see it in person. It really starts glowing this really cool green. Here's some just regular salt. We put salt in. So salt does not really fluoresce for us. It does look kind of cool and purple under the black light, but does not glow. So this is Vaseline. It's usually used for like if your skin or your lips get kind of chapped in the winter, that can help sometimes. We put that under there. Oh, this does actually pick up a really cool glow. So we can say that that one does fluoresce. Right here is another household item. This is some honey. Okay, so you know honey in normal light is a sort of nice kind of golden yellow. But if we put it under the fluorescent light, it definitely turns kind of like a yellow or maybe a little bit yellowish green. Very cool. Now I have some paint. So this is actually one of the colors that were invented by the brothers in the book that inspired today's steam-powered stories. It is one of those day glow colors. So a lot of the day glow colors are what we would call neon, but not all neon colors are day glow colors. So all of the day glow colors, the ones that will fluoresce, are kind of like this bright color that we associate with neon, but they have like the special additives, the fluorescence, that means that they will shine under a black light. Whereas if you have just a plain neon green that isn't like especially fluorescent, it will look like this when it's under normal light, but it won't turn this really bright glowing green when it's under black light. It'll just be like normal green color still. So that is really cool. And the last sample that we're going to look at right here together is some glow-in-the-dark paint. So glow-in-the-dark paints are actually fluorescing paints that just fluoresce for longer. So whereas this, the green paint that we just tested, when it's underneath the UV light, it releases that glow. But as soon as it's outside of the UV light, its electrons are already settled and it stops glowing because everything is back where it's supposed to be. Glow-in-the-dark paint, when you put it under a UV light or even under regular light that still has some UV rays, then it will hold those and it will release, or its electrons will take longer to settle back down, so it will release its glow for a longer period of time. So if we put it underneath our black light, if you're here in person, you can see that it does do that same immediate glow that the green paint did. But if we take this out, hopefully it's charged for long enough. If we take it out, then we can see it's still actually glowing after we remove it from the light, and then it still glows for a little while until its electrons are settled back down again. Which I think is really cool when you see these cool things, even if they're things you've gotten used to, like, you know, glow-in-the-dark stuff. We have that around just kind of casually now. But it's really cool that you can see that out in the world and be like, I know how that works now. So I hope that you enjoyed exploring some of this fluorescent stuff with me. And I hope that if you guys do have access to a black light, you and an adult or a responsible older kid can gather some stuff together and test it out for yourself. All right, guys, and welcome to our next activity. This time we are going to be making some glowing oobleck. Just about everything we're doing today is at least a little bit messy or has the potential to spill. So as usual, make sure that your surface is protected and also have an adult or a responsible older kid nearby just in case you need some help with any spills or anything like that. But we are going to get right into this since our surface is prepared, or my surface is prepared. You guys actually may have heard of Oobleck before or played with it. It's also called magic mud. So basically what you do is you take some cornstarch and then usually just some water, and you mix those together in a bowl. When you mix cornstarch and water together, you get something that is actually called a non-Newtonian fluid because it can change its viscosity. Now, viscosity is kind of a fancy word that means how fast it flows. So like if you pour out water, that usually pours pretty fast. But if you have syrup that you're trying to pour on your pancakes, sometimes that will take a long time to come out. And that kind of speed that it flows, that's called viscosity. And normally, a viscosity doesn't change unless you change the temperature. So like if you have syrup and it's really cold, it's going to go a lot slower. But if you have that syrup and you like put it in a microwave, it's actually going to flow out faster. So what's cool about a non-Newtonian fluid like our Oobleck is that it will actually change viscosity depending on how hard you hit it. So let's do this and you can see what I mean. And because we want to make some glowing Oobleck, instead of regular water, I actually have tonic water here. So it does have quinine in it, which is what is going to make this glow underneath our black light. So again, for this glowing Oobleck, you will need a black light. But if you don't have a black light, you can still make Oobleck with normal water and still have a lot of fun playing with it. So to do this, we're going to put in 2 parts of our cornstarch for 1 part of our liquid. And that means basically we just need to put in twice as much cornstarch. So I'm not going to make that much because I just want to show you guys how it works. So I have my tablespoon here and I'm just going to put in 2 tablespoons. I take my tonic water and I'm going to put in 1 tablespoon of tonic water. And then basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mix this up. And if I need to, I can add a little bit more tonic water, or if you needed to, you could add a little bit more cornstarch. It doesn't need to be like a perfect 2-to-1 ratio. Now you can see my oobleck. And the cool thing about this is it looks like a liquid, right? And you can see how it kind of pours like a liquid. But if I go and poke at it really hard, it barely moves, right? It kind of, I only go like a little tiny bit in and I don't sink into it. But if I put my finger gently and just let it sink, it gets buried right in the mud. And then if I like wiggle it fast, it's like it's trapped. But then if I slowly take it out, it's not a problem. And that's the really cool bit that is our non-Newtonian fluid. Now we're going to try and test its glowing. Yeah, so we have our glowing oobleck. And then also, if you can see, if we actually just shine it onto the tonic water, it really does glow this really cool blue. And that is what has also gotten into our oobleck. Tons of fun. Like I said, it's a little bit messy though, so make sure you're in an area where that is okay. You guys go and you have a blast, and I will see you. Hello everyone, and welcome to the craft portion of our steam-powered stories. Remember, if you come to our in-person steam-powered stories, you will get our craft kit. If you were not able to come to our in-person steam-powered stories, then we will have some available in the entryway to the children's room here at the Manchester City Library. So come and get those while we still have some left. And remember, if you would like to join our in-person steam-powered stories next week or in 2 weeks, then you can go to our website and sign up or give us a call and we can register you over the phone. But if you have gotten our kit, then you're going to want to get that out, as well as a bowl for mixing, and we're going to need some water in a container that we can heat it in. So inside of the kit, we have our instructions as usual. We also are going to have a plastic cup with some glow-in-the-dark or fluorescent paint. In there is 3/4 of a teaspoon. And also in the bag, there is going to be a 1/4 cup of plaster of Paris. I know we talked earlier about not putting things down the drain if we're not sure if they should go down the drain. This should not go down the drain. So when you do your cleanup, make sure to get as much of it as you can into the trash can before washing out your bowl or anything like that. Okay? All right. So first what we're going to do is we're going to take 3 of our tablespoons of water and put it into your heat-safe jar and then heat that up. I did mine in the microwave. And we're going to combine that water and our paint into a bowl to mix them together. And what I think is helpful is to use the water that we have to kind of help get our paint out. So we've got our water and our paint really well mixed. And then we are going to add the 1/4 cup of plaster of Paris that is in our kit. We're going to go ahead and mix that up really well. So when that is all mixed up, we're going to get something that we can pour this into, so some sort of mold. You can use the little cup that your paint came in to fill up at least some of this. Another good thing to use is if you have any extra ice cube trays that it is okay to use for fun experiment stuff, then that's a really good mold. Make sure to ask first. You can also get some foil like this here, and here's one I did earlier, and just sort of like mold the shape that you want your chalk to end up being. If you are going to use foil, I do suggest putting it onto a plate or something just in case that it seeps through the cracks where you put your foil together. But that is a good way to do it. But anyway, once we have all of our chalk into the different containers, remember to scrape out all the rest of this into a garbage can before any washing gets done. You can use some paper towels to just make sure to get as much of that out as possible. Then we're going to take our molds and we're going to put them aside in a safe, dry space, and we're going to let them solidify. So it's going to take probably at least 24 hours, so at least one whole day, and then check on them and see if they are dry. I can go ahead and show you guys this one, which I did earlier. This is one that I did inside the little cup that the paint comes in. See, you can see how it got molded on the bottom. We've got our chalk, and here's some black paper. Works okay as a blackboard. And then if we add some UV light to it, you can see that it glows under the UV light as well. If you guys use a glow-in-the-dark paint, which I think all of the craft kits right now do have glow-in-the-dark, it will also glow. I use just a neon day glow paint, so mine only glows underneath the dark light, but your guys should glow in the dark as well as with a black light, just depending on what you have at home. Okay, well, I hope you really enjoyed this craft. I hope you get some good chalk out of it. And let me know how that goes if you stop by the library at the children's desk. That'd be really cool to hear from you. All right, everyone, thanks so much for joining me for this week's steam-powered story. I hope that you enjoyed learning about fluorescence and how things glow. I also hope that you had fun with our very messy activities and crafts this week. Remember that we will be having our next steam-powered story in 2 weeks. That's going to be on February 1st. And there will be a hint at the end of this as to what we might be talking about for that steam-powered story. There's also going to be some other books, just in case you were interested in what we're talking about today. You can also check out this book here, The Dayglow Brothers, at the Manchester City Library. And if you do all that reading, I want to remind you guys one more time that we do have our winter reading program that it's going to go on till the first week in March. So if you decide to read some of these books, you should definitely sign up for winter reading so you get points towards fun coupons and other prizes this winter. All right, so I think that is everything, and I hope to see you in 2 weeks, either here in person or again online. All right, till then. Bye!